Kanazawa City in Ishikawa Prefecture. In the Edo era, Kanazawa flourished as one of the nation's largest cities, fourth among Japan's great castle towns. Turn any corner, and the town's history and traditions greet you. They're a vibrant part of the landscape today. In 2015, the Hokuriku bullet train dramatically improved access to other metropolitan areas. Tokyo is now just 2.5 hours away. This has helped make the city a popular destination for 450,000 tourists.
In Kanazawa, we say, you can forget your lunchbox, but never your umbrella.
Is that so?
Like today. It was clear just a moment ago, but see? Now it's raining. The weather is constantly changing.
Yes, the autumn showers.
Exactly.
Today's guest is actress Misato Tanaka, a Kanazawa City native. In 1997, at age 20, she starred in a popular TV drama series, and since then, has gone on to act in films and on stage, even lending her voice to anime productions. The Eastern Pleasure District. For 200 years, the quarter has flourished because of its geisha and their legendary skills in music and dance. Historic buildings are protected as a cultural heritage. One ancient structure, the Hikari storehouse, boasts a traditional gold leafing layered over its outer walls. This is Kanazawa's folk craft of legend. So, with these lavish sheets of light for a backdrop, let us enjoy our next offerings of photo haiku.
Ever try your hand at haiku?
I attended a haiku gathering once, and I still remember the one poem I wrote. Refreshed, seeing the landscape after saying goodbye. That's how mine went.
That's charming.
Wow.
Haiku is the world's shortest form of poetry, and people all over the world write it. Have you ever experienced any points in common between acting and haiku?
Yes, I have. For example, at first, you might gather bits and pieces together to create a role. Or when playing an actual person, you read about the person, learn all you can, and then leave it. You then simplify, distill everything to form the character. I think that's where acting and creating haiku come together.
Interesting. So the similarity is in how it strikes the person's imagination, or maybe the philosophy of life, or the sense of beauty?
That's it, yes.
Interesting.
Welcome to the world of photo haiku, the bringing together of image and poem. Each work must follow 3 rules. It has to be a 3-line haiku. It has to portray seasonality. And it has to maintain a balance, fusoku furi. Picture and poem can be neither too close nor too far apart. Let's have a look at the works of 3 selected poets on no fixed theme sent in from around the world. Our cold ears, carrying sea sounds back home.
Our guest today chose this poem. What do we think?
Yes, I liked this. Our cold ears. That line impressed me. The photo shows a group of people moving in the distance. Perhaps they are working or on a journey. You might imagine several things. You picture them reaching home, coming back to their mothers or those watching over their families. They embrace and cold ears brush against a loved one's cheek. The chill from their ears is so cold, and that will instantly give a mother a vivid sense of the lands that they have come from. The sounds of faraway places and the ocean conveyed by the coldness.
I see.
Interesting.
So you envisioned the mother waiting back home,
I did.
that the person had come back home in winter. So cold that it hurts, his ears still carrying sea sounds. I found that very lyrical.
And usually when you come home, you're carrying seashells, but this poet comes up with sea sounds. It sounds like seashells. It's close to that, but it's a beautiful expression. And I also thought that their ears were so cold that there was a thrumming sound almost in them, a little bit like the sound that you hear when you pick up a seashell and you hear the ocean sound in it. Anyway, thanks to your description and your explanation, I really came to like this poem.
I'm so happy.
Salt in the air. How many steps to see you?
Salt in the air, of course, it could be the ocean, could be tears. I don't know, I'm very interested to know how you two read this.
I didn't really get the first line.
Me neither, but you know, salt in the air, as you said before, makes one think of tears. And if that's the case, you imagine someone who's gone to heaven and you can't meet them anymore here on earth. So the longing for those you can't meet anymore comes through.
That is another really good reading, actually. Yeah.
To see you doesn't necessarily refer to a person living on the opposite shore, but to the one that you want to see but can't. It may not refer to meeting a person at all. It may be someone trying to come face to face with God, for example.
That's right.
The bright, pure clouds remind me of the whiteness of salt. It's just simplicity itself. The landscape is so casual, so demure. And that is also true of the poetry and the photograph. The very simplicity of the scene and the casual appeal of an ordinary landscape, combined with the unassuming language of the poem, it all works to stretch one's imagination.
Gold craftwork flourishes in Kanazawa, including gold leaf, a work of art 1/10,000th of a millimeter thin.
Even now, we cut each sheet by hand to make the finished product.
Kanazawa's tradition of gold leaf craftwork is ancient, stretching back at least 400 years. It's used in our fine tableware, kimonos, etc., and so it thrives even now. People say this craftwork survives by the grace of Kanazawa's nature.
Foil making techniques are deeply rooted here, and Kanazawa's pure water and moderate humidity make for a perfect environment.
The city's legacy of traditional arts has been handed down from generation to generation, and its beauty still attracts many to this day. So, with gold as our theme for haiku, we solicited works from poets the world over, and our 3 judges have made their selections. Golden leaves. The wind takes its part of the treasure. The high bridge. A golden ring slowly falls into the river. Autumn's gold. The beggar's bowl, full of leaves. Insomnia. On the lake mirror, a leaf's tremble. Please address your photo haiku to our home page. Shortening days, the length of your fingers against mine.
You see the photograph and it's very sort of dark and you're reaching the end of a day, a little bit shorter than you would usually have it be because it's in winter. So shortening days can be the days of winter, so you have a kigo sense there. And during that time when it gets cold, like it's beginning to get now, you want skinship, someone's hand near you to keep you warm. So that's one possible meaning, but the other could be shortening number of days. As you get older, even more, the length of someone's fingers against yours has even deeper meaning. So there are two ways to read it, and I thought it was both profound, incredibly simple, and it gave me a feeling of warmth.
So it's a work about skinship.
Right, yes.
Ah, I see.
I think so.
The length of the fingers is emphasized, so I imagined the length that a finger's shadow cast according to the weather and time of day. But that could just be my particular take on it.
Oh, that's interesting too.
I wonder too if it isn't because it's winter. After all, the days are getting shorter and it's getting darker earlier. And that instills a sense of lonesomeness or longing for another. Perhaps that's what the poem is trying to say.
I think so.
From mountaintop to mountaintop, the silence howls.
This work made me think of so many things. The quiet and the howling, all in a state of suspension, a kind of overarching stillness. Even though all is wrapped in quiet, you feel the presence of a tremendous force. You feel the power of the wind. In that regard, I thought this was an extremely skillful work.
Poets very often use this technique. For example, icy fire. They're two completely different things, ice and fire, but put together they have a unique impact. So silence howls. Silence is silence, howling is howling. But what this means is the silence is even more loud, even more impressive. So that combined with this image, I thought was pretty magnificent. What did you think?
I can certainly see what you mean about the silence and the howling being opposite things. Here, the photo shows the tree branches whooshing, streaming in the wind, but they are, in fact, stock still, and their stillness strangely evokes a sense of howling. It's a very peculiar impression.
Is this a bonsai or is it a sculpture? It actually looks to me like a wire sculpture, which I think is also incredibly interesting. It's a great combination of artistic elements.
That's true. But even as a normal work of art, or a kind of symbol, should I say, it isn't a photograph of a mountain peak per se. And I find that interesting because it sparks the imagination.
The renowned Kenroku Garden graces the center of Kanazawa City. Constructed in the Edo era, it is one of Japan's 3 most illustrious gardens and bears a rich tapestry for every season. Kenroku Garden is the site of special preparations each November, as yukitsuri, snow ropes, are hung to protect the tree branches, a winter tradition that's part of Kanazawa's poetic charm.
Another one in here, too.
I've never seen it at this stage before, with the ropes still bundled up ready for use after the pillars are erected. This will certainly take more than a day to complete.
The snow here is slushy and heavy with water, so branches are known to break under the weight. True winter weather is about a month away. Pillars stand beside each tree so workers can secure the yukitsuri, the umbrella of rope lines suspended from top to bottom that protect the branches from snapping under the weight of a heavy snow. 5 pillars and approximately 800 ropes are needed to protect the garden's largest, most magnificent tree, the Karasaki pine. Thinking on the winter seasonal word, yukitsuri, all 3 of our poets have composed a haiku based on the work of securing the snow ropes.
雪吊りの絆深まる待つわびて
So the pine is bowing in apology?
Yes. It isn't that the branches are drooping down, but when the ropes are attached, they seem to be saying thank you. They portray an image or feeling of modesty. Pine's bowing as if to say, I'm sorry. And as when people apologize after a fight, their bond deepens. I wanted that image to overlap with that of the ropes, wrapped in layer after layer on the trees, making them ever stronger.
I really like it. I love the gentle shape that you've captured that the pine trees take.
Now, on to the other poems.
Warm lines in widening circles, yukitsuri. The lines, you can read lines 2 ways. It can either be the lines of the yukitsuri itself or the lines that we write in haiku, which go out, one word by one word, out into widening circles. And it's kind of an idea that our program puts forth too. We write haiku, simple, warm lines that go out in widening circles and support one another in the haiku world.
雪吊りの仕上がり待てば雨上がる
Covering one tree with snow ropes takes 12 big men an entire day to do. And often before the job is done, as today, the rain stops and starts intermittently. That's the nature of the season. The autumn rains fall and the snow ropes must be set. I tried to put today's experience down straight, just as it happened.
And here comes the rain again.
Right on cue.
Do we have any umbrellas?
Okay, thank you.
So, here we have it. 3 finished haiku, composed at the mercy of Kanazawa's fickle weather. Which poem struck a chord with you? Late autumn. A frog's heart beats in a ripple.
This poem has been sent to us by a writer from Croatia. I wonder, can one see frogs in the autumn there? I'm not certain. In any case, you certainly don't see them in Japan in the fall.
I think it's possible to see one, maybe, but it's rare, very rare, because this season, their heart is actually slowing down and they're ready to hibernate, aren't they? I think that the way I took it, and I'm not sure at all that I'm correct about this, is that there's a frog in the water and his heart is slowing down, but each time it beats, it sends out a little ripple across the water. That's how I thought, and that's a kind of small, slowing down, gentle little movement that seems to relate to late autumn in my mind.
Like he's heading into hibernation.
This is one of your selections, yes?
Yes, it is. The photograph shows the crimson autumn leaves slightly drooping down in the foreground, while the lake or the surface of the water sparkles in the background. It made me think of a frog clinging to the leaves somehow. He tries and tries to hold on, but in the end, he plops down into the water, and that is what causes the ripples on the surface to appear. It's like a little picture book story. I imagined the world of a charming little picture book, and it just seemed so adorable.
It's really, really cute impression.
In the thin silence, before dawn, a lone fox treads on pilgrims' footprints.
I hear the word pilgrim, and I admit I'm not very familiar with their lives, but I imagine that they spend much of their time in solitude. They face inward, contemplating life. And so it strikes me as very mysterious to find a lonely fox leading the same mode of existence.
It makes me wonder just where he's heading.
Actually, to be frank, I think it's a little on the long side. I know that this author is trying for 575 syllables, but in my opinion, the first line could go completely because the photograph is full of silence.
I don't believe that haiku must strictly adhere to the 17-syllable format. I agree that in the case of this poem, the photograph makes the first line completely unnecessary.
Right, I agree with you. I have seen really, really fantastic haiku poems that have 17 syllables. And there's a large number of people, there are many groups that follow that rule. And they still produce fantastic poems. But it seems to me that less syllables works better. In this case, less is more.
Haiku, the shortest poetry in the world. Let us experience some of its finest works. Nishimura Sensei is at the Kosaka Shrine in Kanazawa. This is the same shrine visited by the great haiku master Matsuo Basho when he took his legendary trip, Narrow Road to the North. It was a journey of 150 days that in 1689, with his departing Edo and making a pilgrimage through Tohoku and Hokuriku. Kosaka Shrine, whose stairs feature a monument to Basho, also contains precious documents and artifacts about the poet that Nishimura Sensei, a longtime student of Basho's travels, has never seen before.
It's made of wood?
Yes, wood.
Basho looks brimming with confidence.
The wooden statue of Basho is normally not shown to the public. It was fashioned by one of his closest disciples, and so probably catches his facial expression to a T. According to the shrine priest, the statue was entrusted to the shrine in 1828.
The image we have of Basho is that of an old man, which is how he referred to himself, in fact. So there are many works depicting him as elderly. But when he visited Kanazawa on his travels north, he was 46 years old.
Yes, still very young.
You catch a hint of that here. He was full of creative vigor and purpose. And yet there's a great aura of quietude about him. I wonder, when he made his poems, if he had just this same expression on his face.
With the surface coated in a smooth skin of lacquer, stones for eyes, Basho's statue portrays the poet as younger and more vibrant than one would expect. Among the multitude of works Basho bequeathed to us, Nishimura Sensei has chosen one that the master composed on his trip to Kanazawa.
赤々と日は釣れなくも秋の風芭蕉
According to the lunar calendar, it was July 15th when Basho came to Kanazawa, which would make it the end of August by today's reckoning. Autumn was already setting in, but the sun was still undoubtedly strong, and the day seemed very hot to Basho. The phrase tsurenakumo means to be indifferent to something. In this case, it's the season and the actual weather conditions. Even though autumn may have arrived, the sun is still shining hot. But it is, after all, autumn, and in the evening, the wind blows chilly and cold. That's how I interpret the line. The poem is over 300 years old, and we can still experience the season in the same way, and every year the poem will still feel fresh and alive.
From mountaintop to mountaintop, the silence howls.
I found this to be a well-crafted and very tasteful poem. The choice of words was excellent, too. And the photograph, I thought, was very evocative. It communicated so many things to me.
This was my first encounter with photo haiku, and honestly, there were poems that seemed to pass right through me. Some through the heart and some through the mind without really registering. But then, when I listened to your interpretations, my eyes were open to new ways of understanding the poetry. I felt my imagination growing bigger, broader than before, and feeling that connection get stronger and stronger was really fun.
Do you want to write haiku now? That's great.